For years I slept in this position without imagining the silent damage I was causing my body. It was comfortable, familiar, and it helped me fall asleep quickly. But everything changed when, during a routine checkup, my doctor looked me seriously in the eyes and said, "If you keep sleeping like that, you could have a stroke, and you wouldn't even realize it until it's too late." That sentence left me cold. Like many people, I thought the way you sleep couldn't have that much impact. I worried about my diet, my blood pressure, even my blood sugar. But I had never considered that sleeping posture could be so important. However, I discovered that not only does it matter, it can make the difference between a peaceful night or a medical emergency. Sleeping poorly can literally take years off your life. And the most concerning thing is that many people over 60 are right now sleeping in a position that, according to several studies, significantly increases the risk of having a stroke. Not because they want to, not out of carelessness, but because no one has told them. Today, you're going to discover which position is the most dangerous for your brain, why it causes that kind of damage, and above all, how you can change it easily to protect your health without giving up good sleep. We'll also talk about who is at higher risk, what signs you should watch for in the morning, and which nighttime habits raise or lower your chances of having a serious problem while you sleep. It's not just an uncomfortable position, it's a real risk, especially if you already have a history of high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, or cardiovascular problems. If you're over 60, this message is even more urgent. Before we go on, tell me in the comments, how old are you? And from which city or country are you watching me? I'll love to read you. Now then, let's get into it. A stroke is one of the most dangerous and silent medical emergencies there is. It can happen in a matter of seconds, and in many cases, it gives no prior warning. It can literally change your life while you sleep, while you're sitting watching television, or even while you're chatting calmly with someone. But what exactly is a stroke? In simple terms, it's a problem with the flow of blood to the brain. And because the brain needs a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients to function properly, any interruption can cause irreversible damage. There are two main types of strokes. The first is ischemic, which accounts for most cases. It happens when a blood clot blocks an artery in the brain. Imagine someone stepping on a garden hose. The water stops flowing. The same thing happens with blood. The second type is hemorrhagic, and although it's less common, it's much more lethal. It occurs when a blood vessel inside the brain ruptures and bleeds. That pooled blood damages brain tissue, and many times there isn't time to react. Both are dangerous. Both can leave serious after effects like difficulty speaking, loss of movement on one side of the body, memory problems, or even death. The most alarming thing is that many times, especially in older adults, the initial symptoms can go unnoticed. Some people simply feel more tired than usual, or wake up with a mild headache, and ignore it. After 60, the risk of having a stroke rises significantly. The natural aging of the arteries, changes in blood pressure, and conditions like diabetes or high cholesterol make older people especially vulnerable. And if we add habits like sleeping poorly or in positions that hinder circulation, the risk grows even more. According to the World Health Organization, every year more than 15 million people in the world suffer a stroke. Of those, about 5 million die, and another 5 million are left with permanent disabilities. It's not rare. It's not something that only happens to others. It's a very real possibility for those of us over 60. I want to tell you the story of Albert, a 76-year-old man who seemed healthy. He had no major medical history, walked every day, and ate relatively well. But one day, he woke up with the left side of his body numb. He couldn't speak clearly, and his vision was blurry. His wife thought he was disoriented from a bad night's sleep, but he was actually having a stroke. Hours later, already in the hospital, the doctors confirmed it had been an ischemic cerebral infarction, and according to them, it likely began during the night. Albert survived, but he never walked normally again. He needs help to get dressed, to cook, and his memories sometimes slip away for seconds. His life changed in one night. That's why it's so important to understand what a stroke is. Because it doesn't only affect sick people or very frail older adults, it can happen to anyone. And many don't know it, until it's too late. Many people think sleeping is simply closing your eyes and letting your body rest. But the truth is that while we sleep, vital processes keep happening inside us. The heart keeps beating, the brain keeps working, and the blood never stops circulating, not even for a second. And this is where the position we sleep in comes in. The way we position our body during the night can either facilitate or hinder the proper flow of blood to the brain. And when circulation is compromised, oxygen doesn't arrive as it should. Arteries get compressed, blood vessels tense, and the risk of a cerebrovascular accident increases without our realizing it. Imagine sleeping with your neck twisted uncomfortably for several hours. That position can compress the carotid artery, one of the main pathways that carry blood to the brain. When it's bent or pressed, blood circulates with more difficulty, and oxygen drops in key areas of the brain. Plus, when this happens night after night, the damage accumulates. The same can happen with certain postures in which the chest is compressed or the spine is misaligned. This can disrupt breathing, raise intracranial pressure, and make the heart work harder to compensate. We also have to talk about the neck. Sleeping with a very high pillow or without proper support can strain the cervical area and directly affect blood flow through the vertebral arteries. In younger people, this may go unnoticed, but in older adults, whose vessels are already more fragile or partially obstructed, this kind of compression can be very dangerous. Several medical studies have confirmed this relationship. One of them, published in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine, found that certain sleeping positions were associated with lower oxygen saturation during the night. Another study by the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke in the United States showed that older people with sleep apnea or poor sleeping postures had a significantly higher risk of silent cerebral microstrokes. And you don't need a prior medical condition for this to happen. Sleeping in a bad position isn't just uncomfortable. It can also be the beginning of a chain of silent events that, over time, affect your brain health. So which positions are the riskiest? Very soon I'm going to show them to you one by one. But I'll tell you this now, the most dangerous one is also one of the most common, and many older adults choose it without knowing they're compromising their brain circulation every night. Sleeping poorly isn't just waking up with a stiff neck. It's a habit that, repeated night after night, may be slowly reducing blood flow to your brain until the day the thing nobody wants happens. And the worst part is that, many times, the warning signs appear in the morning and we ignore them. A small headache, a sense of weakness, or difficulty focusing your vision. We think it's just age, but it could be something much more serious. The position we sleep in may seem like an innocent choice, something we do without thinking, out of habit or comfort. But there is one posture that, according to several studies and neurology specialists, is the most dangerous for brain health, especially in people over 60. I'm talking about sleeping face down. That's right. This position, which many people consider comfortable because it helps them fall asleep, can become a truly silent enemy of the brain. Why? The answer lies in how this posture directly affects blood circulation and pressure inside the skull. When you sleep face down, the neck is forced to rotate to one side, often for several hours without moving. This compresses the vertebral and carotid arteries, which are primarily responsible for carrying blood to the brain. In addition, the weight of the head, pressing against the pillow or mattress, further hinders normal blood flow. It's as if you were bending a hose all night long. The flow of water, or in this case blood, drops drastically. And not only that, sleeping face down also increases intracranial pressure. The chest is compressed, breathing becomes shallower, and the heart must work harder to maintain oxygenation. In people with hypertension, high cholesterol, or prior circulatory problems, this can trigger a serious event. Now I want to tell you the story of Mr. Marcel, a 78-year-old widower who had lived alone for some years. Marcel had a simple routine. He ate dinner early, watched the news, and went to bed. He always slept face down with a big pillow because he said he rested better that way. He had done it all his life without problems. One morning, his neighbor found him sitting in the dining room, but disoriented. He couldn't articulate his words well, and when he tried to stand up, he lost his balance. They thought it was a simple dip in blood pressure, but at the hospital they discovered he had suffered a mild stroke while sleeping. The doctors explained that it wasn't just his age or his untreated high blood pressure, but the position he slept in. That night, his brain did not receive enough blood flow for several hours, and that was enough to trigger a mini-stroke. Fortunately, Mr. Marcel recovered with therapy, but he was left with speech difficulties and had to move in with a relative because he could no longer live alone. Stories like this aren't rare. In fact, sleeping face down is more common than you might think, especially among older people who have had that habit for decades. And the most worrying thing is that very few know it represents a real risk. Of course, not everyone who sleeps face down will have a stroke, but if you already have a history of high blood pressure, heart problems, or poor circulation, this posture can be the trigger for something you could have avoided. Sleep should be restorative, not a silent risk. And changing position can be uncomfortable at first, but it's a small adjustment that can save your life. We've already talked about the riskiest sleeping position, which is face down. But what about the others? Are they all safe? The answer is, not necessarily. Each posture has advantages, but also hidden risks that many people don't know. Let's start with one of the most common, sleeping on your back. In theory, this is one of the most neutral positions. The spine stays aligned, there's no neck torsion, and the joints rest naturally. However, for many older adults, sleeping on the back can become a problem, especially if there's a history of sleep apnea, intense snoring, or elevated blood pressure. When we sleep on our backs, the tongue and the soft tissues of the throat tend to fall backward, partially blocking the airway. This can cause snoring or even pauses in breathing, which is known as sleep apnea. Each time this happens, the body wakes for seconds, even if we don't remember it. The heart speeds up, the brain's oxygenation drops, and this repeats over and over throughout the night. In older adults, this repeated stress on the cardiovascular system can increase the risk of hypertension, heart problems, and yes, stroke. In addition, sleeping on your back can be problematic if you do it with your head too elevated. Many people stack multiple pillows thinking it improves posture or helps them breathe better. But raising the head too much strains the neck, compresses the cervical arteries, and can make circulation to the brain even more difficult. That's why it's important to pay attention to pillow height. Ideally, it should keep the neck in a neutral position, aligned with the spine, without forcing it forward or backward. Now let's talk about a position that many doctors and physical therapists consider the healthiest: sleeping on the left side. This posture has several benefits. It eases digestion, improves lymphatic drainage, reduces acid reflux, and helps the heart pump with less effort because it avoids direct pressure on the vena cava. It has also been shown to promote better cerebral circulation during sleep, as long as the neck is well supported and the spine aligned. However, sleeping on the left side isn't free of precautions. If the pillow is too low, the neck tilts downward. If it's too high, it's forced upward. Both extremes can create cervical tension, arterial compression, and morning headaches. Also be careful about sleeping with your arms under your body or with one leg crossed, as this can hinder circulation or cause numbness. Sleeping on the right side, for its part, is less recommended for people with heart problems or high blood pressure, since this position can slightly increase pressure in the chest and affect nighttime heart rhythm. And we can't forget that many people, without realizing it, change position several times during the night. That's why, beyond how you start sleeping, it's important to make sure your environment, the mattress, the pillows, and the initial posture, is set up to help you maintain a healthy position most of the time. In summary, sleeping on your back can be fine if you don't have sleep apnea and don't use too many pillows. Sleeping on the left side has many benefits, but it requires good alignment. Sleeping on the right side isn't ideal if you have high blood pressure or heart failure. Sleeping face down, better to avoid it altogether. Not all bodies react the same while we sleep. Some people can spend years sleeping in an unhealthy position and not suffer serious consequences. But for others, that same habit can become a silent threat. That's why it's so important to know who is at higher risk when sleeping in an incorrect position. And the first group, without a doubt, is people over 60. From that age on, the body changes in many ways. Arteries become less elastic, the heart works harder, and the circulatory system becomes more sensitive to any kind of obstruction or compression. Even something as simple as twisting the neck into a bad position for several hours can reduce blood flow to the brain without our noticing. The damage can be slow, but cumulative. The second vulnerable group is those with high blood pressure, diabetes, or high cholesterol. These three conditions directly affect blood vessel health. Arterial walls harden, fill with fatty plaques, or lose their ability to expand properly. And when someone with these conditions sleeps in a posture that further compresses those vessels, the risk multiplies. Restricted blood flow in a healthy person may be a nuisance, but in someone with hypertension or diabetes, it can trigger a cerebral microinfarct. And the most alarming thing is that these mini-strokes often don't present obvious symptoms, but they are happening. Another high-risk group is people who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night. Short, fragmented sleep affects blood pressure, disrupts heart rhythm, and reduces the body's ability to oxygenate properly. And if we add an inadequate sleeping position, the damage is doubled. Sleeping little and poorly is a dangerous combination. To illustrate this better, let me tell you the story of Lucy, a 69-year-old woman who had been diagnosed with high blood pressure since her 50s. She always led a calm life, didn't smoke, walked every afternoon, and ate moderately. But she had a habit she didn't think mattered. She had slept face down since she was young, with a thick pillow under her chest and her neck turned to the right. She said it was the only way she could get to sleep. For years, she did it without apparent problems. Until one early morning, she woke with a severe headache, blurred vision, and a numb arm. In the emergency room, they confirmed what no one expected. She had suffered a small stroke while sleeping. According to the neurologist who treated her, her blood pressure was out of control that night, and her neck, being twisted for hours, probably reduced blood flow to part of the brain. The result was a microinfarct that, fortunately, didn't leave severe after effects. But it was a very clear wake-up call. Lucy had to relearn how to sleep. She changed her pillow, adopted a healthier side-lying posture, and started a relaxation routine before bed. It wasn't easy at first, but little by little she noticed she rested better, and more importantly, more safely. This case shows something fundamental. Small nighttime habits, repeated night after night, can become big health risks. And many times, we don't question them because we've done them for years. But the body changes. And what used to be harmless can now be dangerous. Sleep should be a source of rest and recovery, not a silent threat. And if you belong to any of these risk groups, now you know, posture does matter. And it can be the difference between waking refreshed or not waking at all. The body is wise. It always finds ways to warn us when something isn't right. Even while we sleep, it gives us signals. Small symptoms that we often ignore or attribute to fatigue, stress, or simply age. But that could actually be early warnings of a bigger problem. One of the most common and most ignored signals is waking up with a headache. I'm not talking about a sharp stabbing pain, but that constant pressure, as if something were squeezing your head from the inside. Many people think it's tension, bad posture, or even dehydration. And it can be. But it can also be a sign that the brain didn't receive enough oxygen during the night. That pain, especially if it happens often, might be indicating that something interrupted blood flow while you slept. And if you add neck stiffness or numbness in an arm or a leg, then it's time to pay close attention. Another important signal is fatigue upon waking. That is, sleeping 7 or 8 hours, but getting up feeling like you didn't rest at all, as if you had spent the night running instead of sleeping. This feeling, so common in older adults, is often related to poor sleep quality, and in many cases, to the position we sleep in. Sleeping in a posture that blocks proper circulation or creates constant brief arousals without our noticing can prevent the body from entering deep sleep phases. And without deep sleep, there is no recovery. But there are even more serious signals. Difficulty focusing your vision in the morning, blurry or double vision, or slight loss of balance when you get out of bed can be signs that something happened during the night. Perhaps a small interruption in blood flow to the brain, perhaps a silent microstroke. These are symptoms that should not be overlooked. Remember, you don't need a full-blown stroke for the brain to start suffering. So-called transient ischemic attacks, or mini-strokes, can occur during the night, leave few visible traces at first, but cause cumulative damage over time. If you've ever woken up feeling that it's hard to think clearly, that your limbs aren't responding quite right, or that you simply aren't yourself at the start of the day, don't ignore it. It's your body talking to you. And it does so every night. We just often don't listen. One of the great tragedies of aging isn't the decline itself, but the normalization of symptoms. We think it's normal to wake with pain, that it's normal to be tired all day, that it's normal to lose our balance, but it isn't, or at least it shouldn't be. Sleeping well means waking well. If every morning brings discomfort, confusion, or weakness, it's time to review not only your habits, but also your sleeping posture. And now I want to ask you something very important, because maybe you've experienced it too. Have any of these things happened to you? Waking with pain, numbness, or difficulty concentrating? Tell me in the comments. I'd like to know your experience, and maybe you can help someone else who's going through the same thing. Sleeping well isn't only about how many hours you sleep, but how you do it. The posture in which you spend 6, 7, or even 8 hours each night can make a big difference in your brain health, your circulation, and even your memory. So let's see, step by step, how to sleep correctly to protect your brain, especially if you're over 60. The position most recommended by neurologists, cardiologists, and physical therapists is to sleep on the left side. Why? Because this posture helps improve the brain's lymphatic drainage, reduces pressure on vital organs like the liver, and promotes better circulation from the heart throughout the body. It also helps prevent acid reflux, which is very common at night in older adults. But it isn't enough to just lie on your side. There are details that make the difference. First, the pillow. It's key that your head stays aligned with your spine. If the pillow is too high, the neck bends upward. If it's too low, it drops downward. In both cases, the neck arteries are compressed and brain flow is affected. The ideal is a pillow that keeps the head straight, not too elevated or sunken, and that fills the space between the shoulder and the neck. Second, a pillow between the legs. Yes, it may seem like a small detail, but placing a soft pillow between your knees helps align the hips, reduces pressure in the lower back, and prevents your body from twisting into an uncomfortable posture during the night. In addition, that small elevation improves venous return and promotes better oxygenation. Third, room temperature. Sleeping in a very hot or very cold environment interferes with sleep quality. The ideal temperature is between 18 and 20 degrees Celsius. A cool but comfortable environment helps the body regulate functions during the night and prevents unnecessary awakenings. Fourth, the position of arms and legs. It's not advisable to sleep with your hands under your body or pressed between your legs. That can hinder circulation and cause numbness. It's best to keep your arms relaxed, close to the torso or slightly extended, without tension. And fifth, back position. Even on your side, try not to let your back be hunched or overly stretched. A medium firm mattress that adapts to the body is the best option to keep the spine aligned without strain. Let me tell you about Rose, a very active 72-year-old woman who complained of constant fatigue, small memory lapses, and neck pain every morning. For years she had slept face down, not knowing that posture was affecting her brain oxygenation. After listening to a talk on sleep hygiene, she decided to change the way she slept. It was hard at first. She woke several times and couldn't get used to it. But she was patient. She changed her pillow, began sleeping on her left side with a pillow between her legs, and adjusted her room temperature. After 3 weeks, she already noticed the difference. She woke more rested, her neck pain disappeared, and most surprising, her memory improved noticeably. She no longer forgot where she'd left her keys or what she was going to do in the kitchen. Her mind was clearer and her body lighter. Sleeping well changed her day-to-day life, and that can happen to you too. Don't underestimate the power of good sleeping posture. It's not about changing your entire routine overnight. It's about making small, conscious adjustments that, over time, become new habits. Habits that care for your brain, your health, and your future. Sleeping well doesn't start when you turn off the light. It starts hours earlier, with the habits you have in the evening. And although we often don't notice, some of those seemingly harmless customs are silently increasing the risk of a stroke. The first is eating dinner very late or with salty foods. When we eat dinner at the last minute, the digestive system is still working while we try to sleep. This not only affects sleep quality, but can raise blood pressure during the night, especially if the meal was high in sodium, like cured meats, instant soups, or canned foods. Elevated blood pressure during sleep is a key risk factor for strokes, and many times it gives no symptoms. That's why it's advisable to eat dinner at least 2 or 3 hours before going to bed, and to choose light, low-salt foods like cooked vegetables, white fish, or a small portion of brown rice. Another very harmful habit is going to sleep with your mind full of stress. When you go to bed worried, nervous, or ruminating on a problem, the body can't fully relax. The heart beats faster, breathing speeds up, and muscles tense. This makes deep sleep difficult and disrupts levels of cortisol, a hormone that, in excess, can also increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. That's why it's so important to establish a relaxation routine before sleeping. It can be something as simple as reading a calming book, listening to soft music, doing deep breathing, or simply expressing gratitude for 3 things from the day that just ended. And here's another silent enemy of rest: the cell phone. Many older adults have started using the phone or tablet right before sleeping, checking messages, watching videos, or reading the news. But what they don't know is that blue light from screens inhibits the production of melatonin, the hormone that helps us sleep. In addition, mental overstimulation generates insomnia, nighttime anxiety, and fragmented sleep. If you can, turn off screens at least 1 hour before bed. By contrast, there are nighttime habits that do help reduce stroke risk. One of them is doing gentle stretches before bed, moving your legs, neck, shoulders. All of this activates circulation, releases accumulated tension, and prepares the body for restorative rest. Another powerful habit is proper hydration. Many older adults avoid drinking water at night to keep from getting up to the bathroom, but going to bed dehydrated can thicken the blood and increase the risk of clots. Half a glass of water an hour before sleeping is enough to keep the body in balance. And an important warning: avoid taking sleeping pills without medical supervision. Many insomnia medications can alter heart rhythm, drop blood pressure abruptly, or create dependence. If you have trouble sleeping, talk to your doctor, but never self-medicate. I want to tell you about Thomas, a 74-year-old man who had always had high blood pressure. He took medication but couldn't quite stabilize it. He slept poorly, woke several times, and every morning he woke with a headache. One day he decided to make a change. He started eating dinner early, cut back on salt, turned off his phone an hour before bed, and did gentle stretches every night. He also began writing down 3 good things that had happened that day. Within weeks, his blood pressure dropped naturally, and his nights became calmer. His doctor reduced his medication dose, and he felt clearer, stronger, and more at peace. Sleeping well isn't just a matter of luck, it's a matter of habits, and you can start changing them today. When we think about brain health, we usually imagine mental exercises, good nutrition, or blood pressure medication. But there's a fundamental aspect that many doctors don't emphasize enough: the way we sleep every night. Sleep science has advanced a lot in recent years. Even so, much of this information still doesn't make it into traditional medical visits, and many older adults continue to receive the same general advice: sleep 8 hours. But Jungte, what happens if those 8 hours are spent in a dangerous position, breathing poorly, or without entering deep sleep? What doctors don't always tell you, and what several studies have already confirmed, is that sleeping posture can directly influence your brain health, even if you sleep the recommended time. A report published in the Journal of Neuroscience Nursing revealed that sleeping in certain positions, especially with the neck rotated or the torso compressed, can significantly reduce cerebral blood flow during the night. In older people or those with pre-existing conditions, that reduction, even if slight, can trigger what are known as silent microinfarcts. These microinfarcts don't cause obvious symptoms at the time. There's no pain, no fainting, no paralysis. But over time, their effects accumulate: memory loss, difficulty concentrating, mood changes, and even a higher risk of developing dementia. Another study by the National Institute on Aging in the United States showed that people who slept in positions that hindered circulation had a greater number of brain lesions detected by MRI, even though they didn't remember having had any severe episode. This changes everything, because now we know it isn't enough to sleep 8 hours. What matters is sleep quality, and within that quality, posture plays a key role. It's also important to consider what questions you can ask at your next doctor's visit, because sometimes we simply don't talk about sleep in enough depth. Here are some questions you could bring up. Could the way I sleep be affecting my blood pressure or circulation? Is it possible that my morning headaches or fatigue are related to my sleeping posture? Which position would you recommend based on my medical history? Do you think I should have a sleep study? How can I know if I'm having brief arousals or apnea without realizing it? These questions can open an important conversation, because many doctors, even if they don't talk directly about the topic, know that poor quality sleep affects everything: the heart, memory, balance, mood, and the risk of having a stroke. You don't have to wait for a severe symptom to make a change. You can start now. You can get informed, adjust your posture, review your habits, and above all, take your rest seriously. Sleeping well is as important as eating well or exercising. And the most powerful thing is that many of the solutions are within your reach, without pills or complex procedures. Now that we've walked this entire path together, I want you to keep one very clear idea. The way you sleep matters more than you imagine. Sleeping isn't simply closing your eyes and letting time pass. It's a vital process in which your body repairs itself, your brain clears out waste, and your heart stabilizes. But if you sleep in an inadequate position, that entire process can be disrupted, and over time, serious consequences can arise. You've already seen which position is the most dangerous: sleeping face down. A habit many people adopt without knowing that, over the years, it can hinder brain circulation, increase pressure in the neck, and become a real risk, especially for those over 60 or with hypertension or cholesterol problems. We also talked about the warning signs your body gives you: waking with a headache or neck stiffness, feeling tired even though you slept, noticing difficulty focusing or slight dizziness when you get up, and most importantly, we learned how to correct it. With small adjustments, like switching to sleeping on the left side, using an appropriate pillow, avoiding screens at night, and eating dinner early, you can completely transform your rest and your health. Because sleeping isn't just resting, it's also protecting your life. You don't need to make drastic changes overnight. Just start with one step, one new habit, one different night. And over time, your body will thank you. Now I want to ask you a direct question. Did you used to sleep in this position? After watching this video, are you going to change it? Tell me in the comments. I'll love to read you and to know how you're going to take better care of your rest. And to close, I'll leave you with this reflection. Your body speaks to you even while you sleep. Listen to it, care for it, and give it the chance to wake up healthy every morning. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video. And until then, may you truly sleep well.